Let's start in child's pose today. So knees wide spread, arms extended forward. Melt that chest down to the mat. And maybe place the forehead down as well if that feels good. I want you to start to just inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. You might create that swirling in the back of your throat, making an ocean-like sound or Darth Vader sound as you inhale and exhale. Just keep this going, inhaling and exhaling. You might melt your chest a little further over. Find some length if that feels good. Eventually, we're going to make our way up to a tabletop position. Wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Take that belly down, drawing the chin and chest through, and then rounding to the back. Draw that belly button up and in, tuck the chin. Exhale, drop. Exhale, drop. Inhale, round. Exhale, drop. And inhale, round. You might keep this going, connecting each movement to your breath, or you might venture off if that feels good. Just listening to your body as we wake it up. Being really intentional about our breath today as we connect it to each movement. Eventually, find a place of stillness in this tabletop position. You're going to reach the right arm forward, left toes back, flexing through that back left heel, so toes towards the ground. You might keep that rib cage closed as well, so engaging through that core, and then finding some more length here through the fingertips all the way throughout the heel. Feeling the energy come up through the floor, feeling really strong. And then plant that right hand. We're going to take the left leg across the right in the back, planting it towards the floor, and then sitting back a little bit. You might feel a slight stretch in that right hip. So taking that left leg up and over the right, planting it, and then sitting back slightly. Finding that stretch in the right hip. Take a few breaths here. Take a couple more moments here. And then take that foot up and back, finding some more length as we reach that right arm forward, left toes back. Draw that core in towards the body. You might even reach back and grab the foot if that feels good and kick it to the hand. Maybe looking forward if that feels good. Just giving a slight stretch in that left quad. Take a few more breaths here. Eventually releasing down, plant the hand. You might sit back to a child's pose, maybe keeping the knees in close this time or spreading them wide. Either way, reconnect to the breath. Eventually, make your way back up to that tabletop position. Take a few cat-cow to release the spine. Once again, connecting your movement to your breath. You might venture off, taking big hip swivels, or dropping the head. Whatever feels good here. Eventually coming to a place of stillness once again. You're going to reach left arm forward, right toes back this time. Keep that rib cage close, so drawing that belly button up and in. Flexing those right toes down towards the floor and finding some length to the back of the heel all the way to the left fingertips. Feel that energy coming up through the floor. Be steady with your breath. Find some more length. And then plant that left hand. We're going to reach the right toes up and over the back left leg now. Planting the toes. You might sit back slightly. Giving a stretch in that left hip now. Or the right hip, excuse me. Or maybe it's the left. Being intentional about your breath. Take a few more moments here. Eventually coming back to that tabletop position, extending through that left arm, right toes back. Engage through the core, lengthen here. Then you might reach back for that right foot, kicking into the hand if that feels good. Giving a slight stretch in that right quad. Taking a few more breaths here. And releasing down. Take it back to a child's pose once again. Arms extended forward, melt that chest down. Reconnect to the breath. On your next inhale, you're going to reach that right arm to the sky, interlacing it underneath the left. You might even lift the hips, giving a slightly more intense stretch for that right shoulder blade if that feels good. Take a few more breaths here. Eventually coming back to that neutral child's position. Send the hips down towards the heels. And then inhale that left arm up to the sky, interlacing it underneath the right. Once again, you might lift the hips, giving a slightly different stretch on this left side. Take a few more breaths here. Eventually making your way back to that child's pose. Extend those arms out. Draw the tailbone to the heels. You might even walk this out to a puppy pose, knees underneath the hips. Arms extended parallel in front of you. I take the gaze forward or place the forehead on the mat. Shoulder stretch here. Eventually swimming through to a Sphinx position. Plant those forearms down. Take the shoulders up and back. And then maybe drop the chin. Loosening through the neck, taking some head rolls. Eventually are going to plant those palms and slightly extend to those elbows, keeping them bent still. Draw that belly button up and in. Just building some heat here. And dropping the forearms down. Tuck the toes in the back and lift the hips to this forearm plank. You might rock forward and backward. Right up through that belly button. Take a few more moments here. Just building some heat. We're going to come up to a high plank. So planting both those hands, coming up all the way down to that upper back. Draw that belly button up and in. And then send the hips to the sky, downward dog. Find some length, long flat back here. Sending the tailbone to the sky. Totally fine to have a slight bend in the knees here. We want the long flat back to be our goal. We're going to inhale, lift the left leg up to the sky, bringing it forward. Planting the left foot up by the hands and opening up to a Skandasana. So opening out to the right side. Having a bend in that left knee. Right leg extended. You might bring your hands to heart center if that feels good. Trying to lift through the chest, or you might keep them on the ground. Take some breaths here. You might find some movements as you switch to the other side. And back if that feels good. Just doing what feels good for your body. Take a few more moments here. Doing whatever feels good. Eventually shifting to that right side Skandasana. Extend that left leg long. Right knee bent. Take a few moments here. You might find some movement once again. Alternating sides if that feels good. Eventually coming up to a Prasarita. So extending both those legs in a really wide forward fold. You're going to plant your hands on the ground. Inhaling, gaze out long. Exhale, forward fold in this Prasarita position. Hanging heavy here. You might rock forward, setting the toe or the hips over the toes a little more. Doing whatever feels good in this position. Take a few more moments. Eventually, place those hands on your hips. Come up with a flat back. And And we're gonna exhale forward from folding once again in the same position. You might take those peace fingers around your big toes, pulling up with your elbows towards the sky if that feels good. If this doesn't, feel free to do whatever feels good. Maybe you alternate going from one leg to the other. Maybe you take some handstand hops here. Just getting a nice stretch in. You might bend one knee or the other if that feels good. And eventually we're going to take our hands up to the top of our mat, stepping our foot back, coming back to that high plank position. You might rock forward and back a moment here, drawing that belly button up and in. And then exhale, chaturanga down, keeping those elbows in towards the body. Inhaling, up dog. Exhale, take it back, or downward dog, excuse me. Lift those hips tall. On your next inhale, you're gonna reach that right leg up to the sky, bringing it forward, pigeon pose. So taking that right leg, making the shin parallel with the top of the mat, and equalizing your weight from the left hip to the right. So feeling that equal weight between the both. You might extend downward, coming onto your elbows and dropping the head if that feels good. Just letting your exhales be longer than your inhales here. Let the oxygen flow freely. Letting tension release from your hip. Take a few more moments here. Eventually planting the hands. Step that foot back, sending the hips tall. On your next inhale, lifting the left leg up, bringing it through to that pigeon on the left side. Letting that left shin be parallel with the top of the mat. Eventually coming down to those elbows if that feels good. Equally distributing that weight between the left hip and the right leg. And just letting the oxygen flow freely. Letting tension release from that left hip. Eventually come up. Taking that right leg around, we're going to come to a seated position today to finish off our practice. Taking our arms in front of us, we're going to clasp our hands, twisting them, and then pulling them into our chest. Maybe close your eyes and sit tall. And I want you to inhale for 4 breaths. So inhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause at the top. Exhale through the nose, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. And keep this going. Eventually exhaling. Take a few of these on your own. Letting your mind quiet, focusing on your breath. You might eventually bring those hands down to your knees. Enjoying the silence. Thanking your body for its practice today. And then bringing your hands to heart center. Awesome job today, guys. Have an amazing Monday. Namaste. Thanks, guys.